My name is Brent Olson. I'm a Vice President of Information Technology at Taylor Corporation. What I first remember about growing up was we lived in a town called Blaine, Minnesota. And when I was in second grade, we moved to a town called Grantsburg, which is in Wisconsin. And that's really where I consider that I grew up. It's a little town in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. I think the best part about growing up in a small town is really I feel you get to know everybody really well. There was a big focus on outdoor activities. So I remember hunting with my family and friends, fishing. We did a lot of driving around as I got older. We spent a lot of time in the Creeks Meadows. It's a forest reserve, beautiful area. I played several different sports. The ones I kind of ended up with were really football and basketball. I played hockey a year, baseball several years, and it just you ended up kind of finding what you like to do, and I ended up playing what a lot of my friends played. My dad was a director of human resources for a company called Parker Hannifin, and he worked at several different facilities. So he worked at one in Grantsburg, one in Chautauqua, and a couple other areas, one in Nebraska. I always remember him having to be a very people-oriented person, because I think that's what HR people really have to do. And so he spent a lot of time talking with people, talking to employees, working through various work-related issues, and helping people come to resolutions on tough problems. I think my dad had a really strong work ethic. And I mean, not only at work, but even when work was done, we were always doing projects around the house, or he was going out and helping people do projects at their houses. I mean, I remember helping people put in plumbing and electrical work and all those types of things. And I was able to get into those things at a very early age and help out and do those things. So I think he really taught me a lot about kind of what I would say just general maintenance and construction, those types of things. I think he was a very thoughtful parent. I think he made a really strong effort to come to almost all of the events. He was really supportive. He is a good dad. My mom was a director of nursing in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. So she started off as a nurse, and then as we got older as kids, she eventually moved into more of a management role at the Burnett County Medical Center there in Grantsburg. And so she did that. She had to wear a lot of hats. So she really did a lot of work for our family, from cooking to driving people around to picking people up to coordinating events to hosting birthday parties. And she could be very focused. So if there was something that she had to get done, she also would kind of just go at it, get it completed. She's a very caring person. I think she really did a good job, and still does, of looking out for the family and getting our families together. My first introduction to really a computer system, I think my dad had the original Pong console. I was very young. I don't remember that very well, but I do have memories of playing a game like that, but just not being very good at it or really understanding it. And then the Atari 400 came along, and we played that for a long period of time. We didn't have many games for it, but we did. I mean, it was something to do, and I kind of gravitated towards it. When I was about in fourth grade, my dad bought a Tandy 1000. And that computer opened up a huge amount of things for us, not only from a development standpoint, like getting introduced to things like MS-DOS, but also like from a gaming standpoint too. I played a lot of games on the Tandy 1000. And then we were always begging my mom for a Nintendo, but we never got one. And then I think my freshman year in high school, my parents bought us a Super Nintendo. And my brother and I played that nonstop for a long period of time. It was a favorite present, and I still remember like the Super Mario games, all those types of things. It was very enjoyable. You never even thought about programming as a career path in high school. I think I was really focused on, I was interested in things more like political science, that type of portion of it, like getting into I thought I was going to be a politician when I graduated high school, and then I went to Mankato on a political science scholarship for my first year, and I realized about 2/3 of the way through that first year that political science absolutely was something that I did not want to do. That was not my thing. That did not fill me up. And so at the end of that year, I was a little bit lost. Like, what am I going to do with my life? And so I actually joined the Air National Guard that summer. And so I went through basic training and all those portions of it. And really, I took that summer and then the first quarter of the next year off. And that first quarter of the next year off was when I started working at Carlson Craft. I was hired as a temporary employee, and I worked at Carlson Craft Catalog 3:30 to midnight, Monday through Friday. So it was a great job because you got the weekends off, but those were long hours. And then once school started back up, I decided to go back into more of a general business kind of background and try to figure things out. And initially I was kind of leaning towards international business. I really enjoyed international business, actually. I found that very enjoyable. And then I took management information systems and realized that, oh my gosh, these little skills or things that I've really gravitated towards, that was probably what I was meant to be in. And it was really that kind of exposure to that class and I didn't know what I was going to do even my sophomore year. And it was that class itself that kind of really started to hone me in on, this is probably what I want to do or should be doing, because it kind of fills me up. For me, the thing about programming is it's a problem that you have to solve. And I think the amazing part is there's always a new problem. And so just like whether it's a game or a software need, you're building something real often from nothing, or you're building onto something to solve a problem that exists, that ideally at the end of your journey is better than where it was when you started. I ended up majoring in management information systems with a minor in business administration. And I probably decided that as my major around my junior year after taking some more advanced computer science related classes. Part of that is I really enjoyed the business side of the classes. Like I enjoy probability and statistics. I really like those classes. I enjoyed some of the more deeper business classes that exposed you to more management and leadership styles. I found those very interesting as well. But I still always kind of got drawn back into coding, programming. I think it created a lot of good structure because as I went to school, I didn't work till midnight, but I probably worked about 6 hours a day. And I would start between 3:30 and 4 o'clock whenever my workload could get done. And then I'd work till usually 9 or 10 o'clock at night. After that, I'd come home, do homework, and then start the next day. And Mankato at the time, you usually had classes Monday through Thursday. So there was a lot of time to get stuff done on weekends when I didn't have drill and that type of stuff. So it worked out really, really well. And again, I got weekends off. My job was to literally glue pieces of paper on binders for 8 hours a day. And it was a repetitive kind of just the same thing over and over again. But after about a week or so of doing that and getting adjusted to it, I enjoyed it. And then I think the really interesting part there is I had some leaders, some of that which are still at Taylor Corporation today, that got me involved in a lot of different things in that building. So, I mean, I started off gluing pieces of paper on binders, and by the time I was by about my third year there, I was running a Crathern, which is a large manufacturing machine that made catalogs. I was really trying to figure out if I wanted to stay in Mankato, if I wanted to move up to the cities. I think those were some of the questions that were going through my head. And then really ultimately in the end, I had offers from a couple locations, but something just kept drawing me back to Taylor Corporation in the area. And so I decided to start my career here. There were so many opportunities here. Like, I look at my career path through technology. I have gotten to do so many things here. And it seems every time where I'm getting a little bit anxious or a little bit, hey, I want to try something new, there's always been an opportunity here to do that. And I think that's worked out really, really well for me. And hopefully really well for Taylor as well. Yeah, and I think we are still trying to really figure that out. It was St. Patrick's Day, 2021. It was 8 o'clock. I had an early call with HR, nothing negative or anything like that. It was just an employee thing, and it was a little bit of it was about remote work and how are we classifying people. And then the call got over, and I got a tremendous headache. Really, really and I had grown up with migraines. I mean, I was used to significant headaches and dealing with those. Got off the meeting, I went upstairs to my wife. I had about 35, 45 minutes till my next meeting, and I told her she was taking the kids to school and then she was going to work. I told her that I just needed to take a 30-minute rest. Set an alarm, or at least I thought I did, and I'm not sure if that went off or not, but my wife came home after work, and I was still asleep. And so I had been asleep from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. And she tried to wake me up, and she was having trouble getting me up. And then eventually I kind of woke up, but I immediately knew something's wrong. I was numb on the right side of my body. I was having trouble feeling parts of my body. I was really having trouble communicating. I think the first thing I was able to kind of put together was I can't feel my parts. And I think that's when my wife was like, we need to get you to the hospital. And so she loaded up, she was bringing the kids home from school, so she loaded me. So it might have been closer to 3:30. I don't even remember the timing, but so she loaded me and the kids up and brought me to the hospital. And I remember my oldest daughter telling me that she still remembers the conversation, and it was pretty funny because I was not making any sense. The words were all mixed up. And then I remember even my wife taking me, and I'm like, I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm fine. Trying to say that, and I'm just kind of no, let me be, I think is what I said. But she pushed and we got there. And then I think as soon as they put me in a wheelchair and started putting me through these various examinations, that's in my head when I knew that something's pretty serious here. And what is it? And I remember thinking to myself, and it's interesting, I couldn't say these things, but I could think these things. I remember thinking to myself, how quickly can I get out of here? And then all of a sudden it's we need to fly you to Rochester, now. I remember kind of looking at my wife, and she's kind of what is going on? What am I gonna do? And then I remember kind of even I don't want to go to Rochester, it's going to be fine. And then I remember getting put on a chair to get put into the helicopter, getting in the helicopter and kind of realizing holy moly, this is serious. This is a major thing that's just happened. And I just remember thinking on that flight there, just kind of giving I just got to do whatever I can, whatever anybody asks me to do from here on out, and let's figure out what's going on and let's try to get this fixed. And I think during that flight was kind of the portion of it where I realized that I had some problems with my vision, on top of not really being able to speak. And so that was kind of it was really the realization, that flight. It wasn't a very long flight from here to Rochester, but that flight really, I was like, this is something that I have to take extremely seriously. And I even remember going through that first day and going through the initial series of tests, and they would hold up a picture and there would be various animals on it. And I knew what the animals were, but I could not say the name of the animal. So if there was a cat, I'd look at it and I couldn't say the word cat. If there was a mouse, I couldn't say mouse. So what I would think was happening is my brain is trying to kind of reprogram itself to help get those things kind of sorted a little bit. And so new pathways are being developed, all those types of things are happening. But I mean, that first day, going through those first set of tests, and of course, my brain is healing, my brain is going through all of these changes as well. Like at that start of that day, and I think at that start, even when my wife was finally able to make it to Rochester, I mean, I think we were both pretty terrified, like, this is gonna be life-changing. And it has been life-changing, but just in several different ways. What I think they believe was that I had some form of cut or tear in my tissue, and that tissue basically became blocked. So some strokes are caused because contents make it into the brain itself. Mine actually stopped right about here, but it prevented any blood flow from getting to this side to the left side of my brain. I was so used to being busy, and I mean busy all the time with work, always thinking about something, always having something to do, to all of a sudden it's like I have nothing to do. And so what are things that we could focus on? And when I say we, I mean my wife was pretty instrumental in all of this. We'd go for walks every morning. I often had, for those first few weeks, I had therapy almost every day, every other day. And they were just trying to get me back into being able to do basic things. The speech, surprisingly enough, came back relatively quickly. I think that's part of the reason I was able to leave Rochester fairly quickly is, while I had problems with some of the terms, and I've always been a little bit of a fast talker. I was pretty close to being back to that, but I mean, things, they weren't always arriving correctly, but the pace was kind of there. What they were really trying to focus on, I think those first few months of therapy, were really trying to get any visual improvement accomplished that could be accomplished, and then really coping mechanisms for that, and then getting my brain back into that learning mode. I did a lot of exercises daily that they gave me to practice and try. And I really think I'm sure that's part of the program, but it's really to try to keep those pieces of your mind moving and working, and then finding new paths to come through. This is going to sound crazy, but I don't think that everything that happened from the stroke has necessarily been a bad thing for me. I would consider myself very much overthinker of things. Like, if there's a problem to solve, hey, there's 50 different ways to solve it, and which one of these 50 ways do I choose to approach with first? And I would say since the stroke, I'm not coming up with 50 different ways to solve the problems. I'm coming up with 3 or 4. And honestly, that's been a relief. I still think I can solve problems at home and at work. And it's actually it's nice to not be thinking about things all the time. I'm doing really well. There's vision, and there's some, particularly on my right-hand side, there's just numbness in the body that just won't come back. My right foot is basically numb. It's amazing how the mind and the body kind of work together, and I can tell you that it's numb, but does it bother me? No. It was an interesting year. I came back to work about 3 months after having a stroke. And I think that the leadership here at Taylor, they really tried to make my introduction back into the workforce really smooth. I really felt that I was well taken care of in that process, but not only by my boss, but by everybody at Taylor Corporation. And that's one thing I think I should make sure and say is that throughout that recovery process, the support that I got from this company and the people, and really the people of the company too, was, I think, really outstanding. So I had the stroke in March of 2021, And then the next year, about almost a year after, a little bit later than that, I was at work at what we call the Lookout Drive. Was about to jump on a call, got up, went and closed the door, and then I don't remember anything after that. And it was a really interesting day because there was a coworker that's not usually there, and she was there that day, and she heard a crash. And she came over to see what was going on, and I was on the ground having a seizure, which is likely a byproduct from the stroke. Now, a year may seem like a long period of time, but if you think about the amount of healing that's going on in the body and how everything's kind of readjusting that, I mean, I still think that's occurring today. But I remember waking up on another cart, but I could at least talk. I remember having a logical conversation with the emergency team, and I'm like, do I need to really go on an ambulance ride? I don't think I like those that much, but yeah. And so I think I was very worried at the start that I was going to have to go through another process, or I had another stroke, or one of those other portions of it. But I could tell it was very different. I didn't feel the same at all. I didn't have this headache. It just happened. Well, there's my wife Molly, and together we have 3 kids. We have an 18-year-old daughter, about headed off to college. I've got a 16-year-old that's in the process of working on getting his driver's license, and then I have a 10-year-old son as well. And I think one thing that I do appreciate about my kids is the honesty of them for it. Like, we talked a lot about playing games and those types of things before that, and I think my oldest 2 really kind of know the difference between dad before the stroke and dad after the stroke. Like my oldest boy would, talks about like playing video games with me and those types of things, and like I really enjoyed them. I think my son would ask me for help on portions of it. I guarantee you he does not ask me for help anymore. And so that's one of the things that I would say that they've noticed the most difference portion of it is that, well, I still do enjoy those types of things. They don't come near as easy to me as they used to. So far, there hasn't been anything that I haven't been able to do, but it is the rate at which I can do it. And so it takes me more time to kind of work through the process. I slow down specifically, and part of it is I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting a step or forgetting a piece of it, because I think, like I said, short term, that can be a little bit of an issue. So whereas I used to never write anything down, I mean, even in meetings at work, people would see me writing the notes and all I was doing was doodling so that people thought I was paying attention, right? But I did not need to write things down. And now I'm much more into making lists to making sure that I'm getting all the steps done so that I don't forget something important. I think, even since I've had the stroke, that would have been my opportunity to kind of like reset and say, hey, I need to do X, Y, or Z differently. And I will say it, I am content. Like, I am happy with where life is at today and where it's going. And I think my big thing is really I want to see my family and my kids continue to grow up and be supported. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I've been extremely thankful because seeing how a stroke can impact people in so many different ways, and there's such a huge spectrum of impact on somebody. I feel very blessed and lucky to be where I'm at today, and I'm very thankful for it. I mean, very thankful.